Hi, everybody. This is a new 7-part virtual series that we've created to share with organizations and teams since the pandemic hit and basically turned life as we know it sideways and required all of us to recalibrate basically how we work and we play and we live in this new mountain range that we're all operating in. So for each one of these 7 sessions, I take a brief dive into a very COVID-related topic as I see it through the lens of almost 30 years of being a big mountain climbing guide, most notably guiding the first blind climber to the summit of Mount Everest. I've been guiding my blind buddy Eric for 25 years on some of the biggest mountains and rocks in the world, as well as some made-for-TV adventure races that some of you may have even seen. So Eric and hundreds of clients and the big mountains that I've spent much of my life on have taught me countless invaluable lessons on all these topics, ranging from servant leadership to communication to trust to managing adversity and being adaptable. So it's been my mission for 20 years now to be able to share all these lessons that are basically baked into these experiences that I've had, distilling out these strong takeaways that are relevant to each of us, no matter what our roles are professionally and personally. And now more than ever, it's become really clear to me that all these same characteristics and these behaviors and these skill sets that we all need to embrace right now and for the foreseeable future are exactly the same characteristics that I've had to nurture and harness in order to be an effective mountain guide for 30 years. So this Embrace Your Inner Mountain Guide series is very unique from the full virtual keynote that I've been providing for teams since all of our conferences got postponed. My full virtual keynote is a wide-arching presentation that dives into multiple stories and COVID-specific topics over the course of about 30 minutes or so. Alternatively, with this 7-part series, each session is a standalone, roughly 5-minute or so dive into one particular behavior, trait, or skill set that I've distilled from the world of mountain guiding and how it strongly parallels this environment that we find ourselves in right now. We're offering each one of these sessions as an a la carte option in the case that perhaps one or several topics particularly relate to a team, or as an entire 7-segment series package. And then the fun and truly impactful part is that each one of these sessions and my virtual keynote are followed up with a live virtual Q&A dialogue that I facilitate with all the attendees. And that provides us with a real-time opportunity to take a deeper dive into any of the particular themes and then relate them back to the individuals and the subjective team dynamic. So it's all good fun, engaging, and most importantly, there's some real sticking points and tools that are useful to all of us as we continue to climb towards the summit. So a quick look into each of the segments. Segment 1, adjusting the plan or the route. So this segment's all about adaptability and the mindset necessary to embrace change. Big time mountaineering requires a constant real-time assessment of the intended route up to the summit. And sometimes the current conditions require that we reassess, make adjustments, and in some cases turn to another route. So what does that require of us? What does adaptability look like for our team? Are we all clear on the extra bandwidth that this pivot's going to require of each of us? And have we unpacked our backpacks to evaluate the tools and equipment that we'll need individually and collectively for this new route? Segment 2, the rope team. This segment's all about the rope team dynamic and how to cultivate and harness its power. The rope is this intangible piece of nylon that sits off in the corner somewhere until we pick it up and we tie into it. And then all of us become collectively stronger. And that collective power of one is a potent tool to harness, but it doesn't do all the work by itself unattended. The tension of the rope that we use is imperative. So it has to be just right. It can't be too loose. It can't be too tight. It requires constant assessment and adjustments So, what does our rope team look like on this new mountain? Do we need to adjust the order or the sequence of the climbers that are on the rope right now? Or do we need to slow down or speed up our rate of ascent up the slope relative to the conditions and the overall health of our team and where we are right now in this current landscape? Segment 3, trust when it gets steep. So this segment's all about the methods and practices that we have to implement and maintain and to build healthy trust within our rope teams. The trust that I've shared with my climbing partners over the years can't be overstated. I mean, for decades now, my teammates have held my life in their hands quite literally, and then theirs in mine. So that level of trust isn't just handed out free of charge. It's earned and it is witnessed. So trust by definition is when one party, the trustor, is willing to rely on the actions of another party, the trustee, with regards to some situation directed in the future. And the steeper and more uncertain the slope gets, the more we have to trust each other. That should we fall, our teammates have our backs. And for many of us right now, the slope that we find ourselves on currently is different and perhaps even more complex than the one that we were on prior to the pandemic. And that requires different methods of developing trust. So, is trust intrinsically built into our team? Are we actively continuing to cultivate trust amongst the team members, even as many of us work remotely? Segment 4, communications in the storm. So this segment's focused on how we can improve our communication skills and learn new and fresh methods of relaying information in a healthy and productive manner. So guiding my blind buddy Eric on big mountains and rocks all over the world has required me to consider what true, effective communication looks like. And just like Eric and I had to develop alternative methods of communicating as we tackled these, big, tough objectives for decades, many of you are determining new ways to communicate effectively now, and in many cases, remotely. So, am I providing succinct, value-driven information to my team? Is the delivery of my communications transparent and useful? And are we communicating at a volume and consistency that's now required for our current situation? Segment 5, the Sherpa Attitude. This segment's going to highlight how adopting the persona of a Sherpa will undoubtedly be useful as we define our new team and work dynamics. So as most of you are aware, Sherpas are the backbone of every climbing expedition that takes place on Everest and the surrounding peaks. And over the course of my 14 Himalayan expeditions, I have always worked closely beside my Sherpa friends. And I have learned a wonderful array of skills and traits while working beside them in very, very challenging times. They exemplify strength and selflessness and dedication and efficiency. And they are not preoccupied about summit accolades and personal accomplishments. Their team first approach is truly the embodiment of selfless leadership, a trait that we could all embrace more thoroughly even now than ever. So, have we all sincerely leaned into that team first mentality? And what other actions can we as individuals take to show our team our level of commitment to them and the overall health of the team? Segment 6, acclimatization. So this segment is going to ask us how we're managing ourselves, our strides, and our overall pace from camp to camp all the way up to the summit. When we climb big mountains, we can't just go charge from the bottom to the top with great speed and furious anger. As we ascend, the air gets thinner and our bodies have a harder time using that little amount of oxygen that is available. So we have to pace ourselves in order to be best prepared for the tougher conditions above. And this is acclimatization. We head up to Camp 1, we spend the night. We come back down to base camp, we spend the night. And we go up to Camp 2, and we move up to Camp 3, and then we come back down and up and down and up and down and so on. So this is why back when Everest was really tough to climb, it took us 2.5 months, slowly making our way up and down and up and down. So are we pacing ourselves appropriately? Are those intermediary camps that we've established at the appropriate spots along the routes? Have we done self and team inventories on how we're handling these new elevations and these new altitudes and the thinness of the air? Segment 7. This segment looks at the need to not take our eyes off our feet in the process of climbing up and down. What actions can we take to keep our teammates engaged as we all climb together? So 80% of all mountaineering accidents take place on the descent. When we're actively climbing up towards this elusive summit, we're really focused and we're determined and we're fixated on the outcome of success. And then we get to the top. And we're tired from all the outpouring of effort it took to get there. Our overall engagement diminishes a bit, and then we take a spill, and oftentimes a fatal one. I've seen it over many stints of work in mountain search and rescue. And it is a stark reminder that we are all operating in a mountain range, not a standalone mountain. Because once we get to the summit, we got to remember to, of course, celebrate a little bit, but then not lose our focus on the fact that once we get back down to base camp, the next mountain is staring down at us, asking if we've got what it takes and if we're ready. So do we have enough in the tank for the descent, knowing that we have another challenge looming in the near future? What steps can we take to stay engaged throughout the climbing process with both the ascent and the descent? So that is the 30,000 foot view into each of these segments for the 7-part Embracing Your Inner Mountain Guide series. And I am confident that you and your teams will enjoy them and come away better suited to manage the ever-changing current conditions, just like a mountain guide. So if this 7-part series sounds compelling for you and your team, or perhaps my full-length virtual keynote would be more applicable, reach out to your go-to speaker bureau or contact us directly at jeffbevans.com. Thanks, everybody. Stay healthy and keep climbing.